Hello and welcome. Welcome to today's Congree webinar, Creating Efficient and Quality Assured Content with Congree UCC using generative AI. The entire Congree team has been looking forward to this webinar since quite some weeks, and with the introduction of what we are going to show today, a long road of preparation reaches an important milestone. Today, we show you Congree UCC for the very first time, more or less, in English at least. And we are very excited, and certainly Congree UCC also opens up new horizons and inspiration for our partnership with you. The title of our webinar probably already gives you an idea. Today we will talk a lot about generative AI. That is why my colleague Timo von Gilhausen is joining us. Timo leads our new language technologies and AI business unit, brings a lot of experience from his former positions and his wide background into this topic. And like the rest of the Congree team, quite passionate about language technology. So thanks, Timo, for joining us today.
Hello together, hi.
And okay, powerful speech technology is all well and good, but the added value, of course, only exists when the software is accepted by the users and if it is used frequently and with pleasure. And to make sure this happens, this is exactly what my colleague Philipp Bauer, product manager at Congree, has been doing for more than 10 years. And Philipp will later show us live how Congree and generative AI measures. And yeah, thanks to you as well, Philipp, for joining us today.
Hey all.
Yeah, and of course, I also like to introduce myself. My name is Michael Mannhardt. I run the international business activities at Congree, also the president of Congree USA, and I'm taking on two tasks today. First, I'm moderating the webinar. Secondly, I would like to tell you something about the strategic background of Congree UCC. Before we get started, there's just one more housekeeping information. We have quite a lot of participants today and a very full agenda. Therefore, we will not be able to answer your questions spontaneously, but please collect all questions in the questions window in the questions tab, and we will answer the questions at the end of this webinar. So enough preliminaries for now. Let's jump in. And before we finally really get started, you also have an active role. I'm afraid it's not just sitting here and listening for you. We also need your contribution, and yeah, you have to do some work because we will have a quick poll first. Let me start this poll. You should be able to see that now. And yeah, and just a second. Yeah, we would like to know from you, and we'd like to get a picture on how you are already using or possibly planning to use generative AI in your company and organization. And this question now is really about generative AI, not about AI per se. For instance, AI that you might already be using to control your production facilities. This is really about generative AI. So, Jung, you're answering this poll. I recently found an interesting survey by KPMG about the expectation on AI by US executives, and was very interesting, the results. 65% believe generative AI will have a high or extremely high impact on their organization in the next 3 to 5 years. And 60% say there are 1 to 2 years away from implementing their first generative AI solution. 70% said they agree that generative AI can play a critical role in building and maintaining stakeholder trust, but, and this is a bit leading to some of the topics we have later, 45% said it can have a negative impact on the organization's trust if the appropriate risk management tools are not implemented. Quite interesting. Okay, let's have a look at the results of our poll now. And let me see. So I close the poll now. If you haven't made your vote, just a few more seconds. And here we are. And let me share this. Okay, Interesting, very interesting. Okay, 5% are saying we haven't dealt with the topic yet. 47% provided the answer we are collecting information. 37% say we are in the process of conducting initial tests on that, and only 11% already use generative AI. Okay, interesting. Okay, let me share again my screen and let's continue. Thank you very much for participating this poll. So you might have already wondered, and you might already have recognized we have a new logo. And yes, there is some new wording which you probably came across. And the new thing is the Congree logo is accompanied by a claim, unique corporate content. What is this? Certainly sounds interesting, right? Let's take a closer look. And first of all, let's talk about corporate content. As a solution provider for quality assurance and in content creation for enterprises of all sizes, of course, corporate content always was something which was in our DNA, and a lot of what we did was linked with corporate content. But now with generative AI, no question, content creation will change. There is no doubt about that. And generative AI certainly is not a short-term hype. I think we can be sure about this. And possibly models like today, ChatGPT, will come and go. The media will certainly hype one or the other topic around AI, but the technology of generative AI, the large language models or LLMs, this came on stage to stay. And for all of us, this is a great chance to rethink content in a new way, to increase the quality and efficiency of content in a new way. But however, generative AI and its availability will also lead to what we can call a wildlife of content. Why is that? I mean, always, if something gets cheaper, in that case, the creation of content, it will be something that will be used. And for this reason, and probably also in your organization, more and more content will be created by team members that before not had been able to create content possibly. And this content linguistically somehow will be okay. Possibly it will be good. Possibly it will be even very good concerning the quality, but very likely it will be completely replaceable because it will be content, it will be good maybe, but it's not going to be your content. It's not your unique content. Your brand identity is very likely getting lost. And this is why we like to support you to protect the uniqueness of your content. And that is why this claim is also our mission, unique corporate content. And this is one aspect, but we think there are also more challenges around this topic. Let's have a look at that. And let me start like this. In times of generative AI, we are convinced that a few topics are very important. And the first point is, of course, you like to increase efficiency and at the same time keep the quality. And you like to bring this possibilities with generative AI into all divisions of your organization and into all editing environments. And you want to do this no matter if a bot or a human creates the content and no matter in which editor this happens. And you also like to make sure this content exists in a brand compliant way. And here we have the first challenge. I mean, this is referring to what I said before, how to achieve brand compliance and how this is going to be content that really sounds like your content and takes into the content creation what you already defined as how your content should sound. Another aspect, the more AI you use, the more importance gets the aspect of legal compliance. Intellectual properties is another thing, data protection, and not to forget about liability. You as an enterprise, you are liable for what the AI says in your name or what it possibly hallucinates. And this also is an important topic. And finally, also an important aspect looking a bit into the future, also flexibility will count. You need flexibility, you need independence, because today everybody talks about ChatGPT. This is the current leading system. but there are already other technologies on the horizon. The whole picture in 1 year could look completely different. And you need to take the whole picture and different criteria into consideration. And maybe in half a year or maybe in a year, there is a system which is powerful, but with, for instance, a better ability to protect your data. Who knows? And that makes it important to make yourself independent and to build already at an early stage sustainable value, which you can also use in the future. You need a flexible AI agnostic solution, which you can use to build sustainable assets that you can, that you can use independently of a specific AI provider. And all these features I just talked about, all this we took into consideration and we embedded into Congree UCC. And let's take a look what all this includes and what Congree UCC is made of. So let's take a look on what the Congree Authoring Server consists of today. And those of you who already work with Congree or who are familiar, it all started for us even before Congree was founded at the IAI, German Research Institute, with the development of linguistic intelligence. And at the very beginning, the journey started then with functions with automated content checking and correction, checking for style and grammar, and followed by functions to create terminology to ensure the consistency of terminology and so on. And with Congree, we started right from the beginning to bring this functionality into all corporate areas. We made this by developing integrations into various editing environments, into environments within CMS, CCMS systems, PIM systems, browser-based environments, all that to make sure everyone who produces content in the company can use the Congree functions and can check content quality in all areas of the organization, in technical documentation, marketing, support, training, development, and all other relevant areas within enterprises. In addition, we extended the tools beyond authoring support and also offered tools for the management of style guides, but also for terminology management by adding our terminology management tool, TermTiger, at some stage. Today, our customers are using this combination of linguistic intelligence, editing environments, tools to create and manage assets like terminology, knowledge graphs, authoring memory, style guides, to create assets and to manage assets as well. And probably you also have other language technologies besides Congree, such as translation memory systems, MT systems for machine translation or terminology databases. There are numerous system integrations which we have to seamlessly integrate Congree into the language processes. All this is what you already know from Congree possibly, and all this is already used by hundreds of Congree customers, hundreds of enterprises worldwide and day by day. And now we will add, so to say, the icing on the cake. We will now talk about what everyone is currently talking about. We will talk about AI, artificial intelligence, and how to link that. And Congree UCC will complete our platform by adding artificial intelligence, AI, into the platform. And this is no isolated element. This is an integral component of what we have. And later in the demo, which you will see, which Philip will run, you will see how already today linguistics, editor integrations, language assets, tools, how they all already today closely interact with artificial intelligence. And this close interaction, this strong combination, as we believe, is something we continue to develop day by day to benefit from this combination and to provide a powerful solution to you. And we will show the integration in the demo using by ChatGPT as an example. But as you can see, we also listed other systems here in this overview. And as I mentioned before, we feel this is important. Our architecture is completely AI agnostic. On the one hand, due to the generic interfaces, the client does not know which AI is active in the background. And this is independent from the actual AI system. And on the other hand, this independency has another level, and these are the assets. already today we help to build assets to create, for instance, terminology, find new terminology in the content creation process, create knowledge graphs and so on. Or also, this is important, to collect data for analytics and reporting all around content. So to say, the collection of content data which is created in your organization in an anonymous way in most cases. And that all these assets are a treasure, and also a treasure to train AI, to make AI learn from your content. And these are incredibly important assets for building and creating AI, feeding AI. So this is a very important aspect. So just a second, please. So before we start and then move on to the next speaker, AI is a broad field with many facets and rapid development. And before the whole world was talking about ChatGPT, we already realized that language technologies are on the rise and offer enormous possibilities. And that is why, in addition to our linguistics team, our development team, we added a new language technologies team since last year. And with this team, we have a dedicated team that works full-time on this topic, implements solutions, tests them, brings the knowledge which they gained to other departments within Congree to share the knowledge. And the head of this team is Timo von Gillhausen, who already had been introduced at the beginning. And Timo, if you're ready, over to you. What would you like to share with our participants today about generative AI?
Thank you, Michael, for the introduction of what I think is a really, really exciting topic. And I've prepared two blocks for today, but at first I want to share my screen with you so that you can see the presentation. I'm not really sure. I think I need to level up me to the moderator rule. Okay. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, as I said, I've prepared two blocks for today. And at first I want to give you a little comparison. What is the difference between the linguistic intelligence and the generative AI? And I want to talk about what are the capabilities of both and how do they play together at best. And after that, I will briefly introduce the process and our implementation. And then I will already hand over to Philip, who will present it to us live. And I want to say, okay, let's start with the first topic. What is the difference between linguistic intelligence, which we have been using for many, many years, and generative AI? When the whole topic came up and the question was how the two areas work best together, or what is the best suited solution for which type of task, an image came to my mind, and that was the two halves of a brain. Why of all things a brain? That's quite simple. Brain research has come a long way in understanding how the brain divides tasks. Today, they know that the left side of the brain is mainly responsible for everything that has to do with reading, calculating, logical thinking, concentration, analytical skills, and so on. So these are all subject areas that are attributed to the left half of the brain. The right side of the brain is responsible for areas of our lives like imagery, emotion, spontaneity, curiosity, play, risk, art, and creativity. I find this very exciting division, and if I now assign these attributes to linguistic intelligence and generative AI, I think I come to a very, very similar picture. And we will now take a closer look at that. On the left side, we have the linguistic intelligence. This is very controllable. So this is the first attribute I want to talk about. So our customers know it. We can make adjustments to the rule set at any time, which means if the rule set doesn't behave exactly as it should, we can directly take action here and change it. But we can also configure which linguistic rule should be checked at all. We can also check contextually, so that in the marketing, different language checks is made than in the technical documentation. This all can be configured. We can also implement an integration of terminology relatively simple and also check this. This means that we are very, very close to the control mechanism of this technology. On the other hand, if we look at generative AI, I would describe it as more creative today. When I check a text with this system, it is not possible to specify exactly what should be checked. I can also no longer control so selectively which linguistic details are to be checked. On the other hand, I get extremely good results on this page when it comes to text generation or proposals for correcting existing texts. That's where we really have a pound and a real strength on this side of the generative AI. The linguistic intelligence is a very limited area of AI because it is very use case related. In our case, it is very much focused on the topic of language checking in terms of grammar, spelling, tone of voice, but just as you heard, not text generation. The linguistic intelligent system is simply not designed for that. The generative AI, on the other hand, is multifunctional. Anyone who has ever played around with ChatGPT will know that it is very easy to create content, programming, write poems, and much more. With ChatGPT 4, you can also generate images. All this is absolutely no problem for this kind of systems. But therefore, our linguistic intelligence is reliable. So that means if you check the same sentence 100 times, you will get the same result 100 times. This is quite simple because the set of rules behind it behaves in the form that our experts have coded it into. And there is simply no way around it. The generative AI is a bit more unstable. This means that there is no guarantee that if you check the same sentence twice, you will get exactly the same result. This depends, of course, on the model used, but also on how I formulate the input. For this purpose, a so-called prompt is used. That is an introduction, more or less, as to say the system what it should do. As with real people, misunderstanding can occur at this point. Last but not least, there are also a number of parameters that control how the AI behaves. Used as a language checker, we are on a more unstable path with that kind of system. And if you now look at the linguistic engine intelligence again, we can trace every step here now to the down to the smallest detail. This means that we can look into the rules at any time and understand exactly why the system behaves in the way it does. That's a big advantage because you can then naturally understand what the system is doing. On the other hand, it is not so simple. Today, there are certain approaches to take a decision-making process to make a decision-making process within the AI system comprehensible and displayable. However, this topic is still very much in its early stages. And as a general rule, there is no information available at all about why decisions are made or on what basis. It is the simple so-called black box. At the end of the attributes, we look again into the training process of the two systems. On the one hand, we have the linguistic intelligence. It learns as it were, it learns by the rules that our experts put into the system. These control for each use case what exactly should be checked and why exactly there is a spelling error or a grammar program at a specific point. On the AI system, there is a learning through data. We need a huge amount of good content for this. The system then learns the correlation contained in the content. What is learned is always checked against previously defined validation data during training. However, it is not always possible to predict exactly what will actually be learned from this data. This can lead to problems that make it necessary to train the system again. So from my point of view, these are my thoughts for these two sides of our brain. And then after that, we ask ourselves, how can we use the best of both worlds to apply it to a text or to a content in general? Okay, here's our content. And on the one side, of course, from the right, from the creative side, we see an incredible, great opportunity to generate text proposals, creative text proposals, without a human being having to actively use the keyboard. On the linguistic intelligence side, quality assurance also comes from our linguistic intelligence. This means that the text should be correctly and comprehensive presented to the outside world with your wording and terminology. That is the task of our linguistic intelligence. From the AI, we can get very complex correction proposals. Today, we do not have corresponding correction proposal for all of our rule codes, and that is precisely where generative AI can help us extremely well. We always have had simple correction proposals, so everything that is somehow totally indisputable, we can always cover. Are there really complex correction proposals where entire sentences have to be reformulated, restructured, rearranged? That is actually a bit difficult for us today, but we have solved exactly this point by the integration of ChatGPT. And how this integration looks from a schematical side, I will show you now. We will continue to start from the user who is creating content in his text editor. And what we first do in the first step, we still use our linguistic engine to check the content, meaning it is checked against the existing set of rules. We check whether sentences are too long, whether I have to rewrite something from passive to active. These are two examples what we report here, and where you then receive an appropriate instruction on our side panel to do something. For rule codes, which there are no correction proposals as of today, we use the possibilities of generative AI. We now ask ChatGPT to generate correction proposals for the written sentences with the problem in it. At this point, we use the prompts again so that ChatGPT knows exactly what the problem in the sentence is and how the result should look like. This sounds quite simple now, but the more specific the error is, the more difficult it is to write the prompt in such a way that ChatGPT does not change the complete sentence. And if we then get back the corrected content, then we propose this as a correction proposal via our editor plugin again. And then it's up to you, the user, to integrate the proposal from ChatGPT into your content. And this is actually already the keyword for Philip to show us the integration live. And therefore, I would like to ask Philip to take over the moderation and the microphone.
Thank you, Timo. So let's see how this actually works using Congree. Yeah, what I'm sharing right now is one of our web applications. It's called Congree Anywhere. I chose this application because it's very easy to use. It's just a website where I can enter content, and this content will be checked by Congree. And we can see how Congree reacts to that content. It's very similar to the integrations you are using, whether it's Word or InDesign or some other website. But since it's more neutral and everyone can easily understand, it makes sense that we have a look at this in Congree Anywhere. And yeah, as I said, it behaves very similar to the Congree integrations you already know. So when we go to the settings, we see a specific rule set, which has been selected here, and which defines what rules are important for us for the content we're currently creating. In our scenario, this will be content for a instruction manual for a product by the company Crystal Clear. Crystal Clear is a company that creates crystal balls to look into the future. And in this manual, we have some description chunks how this product should be used, and yeah, what are the dangers and what needs to be considered. And yeah, we do this with a few examples. So let's simply start with the first example. I'm not going to write all of that, so I already prepared the sentences before, so I'm just copying and pasting them into Congree Anywhere. And we see in the first example already some issue. We see that I wrote headphone here, and according to our terminology, according to the wording I'm supposed to use in Crystal Clear, I'm not allowed to call them headphones. I should call them headsets. And yeah, this is underlined here, and I get this information that this term is wrong, and I should replace it with a corresponding preferred term. So most of you already know that. This is how Congree works. We find issues regarding terminology, and if there is a better variant, we propose it, and we can actually apply this variant into the document, and thus improve our documentation, leading in the sentence, for example, to a release level of 100%, since no errors remain. So, as I said, most of you already know that. Now let's go into some more complicated issue. Let's let's look at this sentence, for example. In this sentence, I didn't have a lot of time to create this content, so I made a lot of spelling mistakes. And of course, Congree can all find them. It's no magic, it's no surprise. So we find all those issues. And of course, I can, as I always did, go one by one and correct those proposals. But thanks to the AI integration, what I can also do is I can simply rewrite the entire sentence, avoiding all those spelling mistakes at once. And I do this by simply clicking the apply example button, and I can apply the example the generative AI is giving me, fixing all the issues at once. I mean, the time you save using this method, it's not huge in this case because it's just spelling mistakes, and you could fix them one by one as well. But why would you? I mean, if you can save time, it makes sense to do that. And I fixed all the issues I have at once. Even more interesting are the cases where we actually have some style issues, which are always a little bit more complicated to fix. So for example, if we look at this sentence, here I wrote, to sweeten the deal, once you acquire the crystal ball, you will be grandfathered in at a discounted price for future years until you cancel. Sounds good, right? But what the system tells us is that in this case, according to the crystal clear style guide, I should take into consideration the inclusive language. So I should try to avoid age discrimination, also called ageism, in my wording. And I should use inclusive alternatives instead and use some sort of people first language, right? And of course I can do this as always. So I get this information and I can just rewrite the entire sentence and I will be fine. But what the AI offers us is already a example where this problem does not exist. So what I can do here, if I agree with this example, once again, I can just apply it to the document and fix the issue at hand. Once again, this will lead to a 100% release level. The document quality is much better, and I no longer have this problem regarding our ESG score. Let's look at another style example. So here I wrote with the IC Future. That's one of our products, one of the crystal balls we offer. The future can be seen up to 5 years in advance. This is also something Crystal Clear doesn't like. So they want me to avoid the passive voice. And they tell me with this style rule, maybe you already know it. So this construction uses the passive voice, and I should consider using the active voice instead. Of course, I understand this. Of course, I agree. And once again, what the AI offers me is a correction proposal to avoid exactly this problem. Once again, I will just apply this and fix the issue at hand. I have a few other examples that are also quite interesting. So for example, here, what I did is I mentioned I switched the order of the action and the target of the action, and the system tells me that I shouldn't do that because once again, this is not something Crystal Clear accepts or wants in their documentation. And once again, I have the possibility, if I agree, to apply this and fix this. And yeah, let's maybe look at one more, which is also quite interesting because rewriting can be a pain. So here what I have is I wrote, do not use non-certified crystal balls to predict the future. And this is also something that we should avoid because we should avoid double negatives. They can be quite negative and sound more negative than the user is used to. And once again, the system just offers me a possibility to improve this and avoid the situation by applying this proposal. Yeah. So as you can see, this is really amazing because you get all the triggers for your style rules. You know something is wrong. You know that you're writing something that violates the style guide. So you have the information as always. But what you can do now is get those optional, really quick corrections if you want to use them. So of course, as always, you can do your manual improvements in your documentation if you want to, but we really suggest that you have a look at the example the AI gives, and if you agree with it, you can apply it. And this is of course pretty safe because it follows your style guide. So you only get this message because some violation to your style guide exists, and this is why this actually happens. And this is not the only nice thing about this integration, because as Timo mentioned before, what OpenAI also does really nice is to offer some example texts which we can use as a basis for whatever we want to describe. And this is something which is also integrated in Congree. So we have this interface which you can access by clicking this button, which opens the assisted content panel, where you can directly communicate with the AI. And you can enter some text and tell the AI, for example, to describe in 200 words how to make a glass surface shine by cleaning it. And yeah, after a few seconds of thinking, the AI will offer some solution or some proposal, which you can already use as a basis. So you see a useful structure, and you see how you can text this, and you can improve this text afterwards. So I can apply this into my documentation. Of course, it really depends on how I write the instruction, what I'm going to get. You saw that my instruction was very general, so I get a very general solution, but it works really well. So I get some text which really describes me how I can clean a class surface. And to visualize what normally would happen, what we did here is we allowed the system to just write whatever it wants without correcting it. So you can see some follow-up errors which we are going to get. So I wrote an instruction, but the answer I got has some follow-up issues, which once again contradict our style guide. That's not good. We don't want that. But I chose to do this so that I can visualize that this is what would happen if you use the generative AI without using a system like Congree. If you use Congree, this is normally avoided. So you won't get follow-up issues. This is something Congree will protect you from. And this way we could have avoided those new issues which we get here because Congree knows what is wrong and knows what is right, and will interact with the AI to provide the content which really follows your style guide and your terminology to the letter. Yeah, and that's what we offer. So it's really useful. Have a closer look if you're interested, and it can really speed up your entire content creation process.
Okay, thank you very much, Philip. This was really awesome. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Timo. Amazing. And let me take over now again. That was quite a lot of input and knowledge that you both provided. Let me share my screen again. And I think it's really impressive and exciting what's developing here. I'm really looking forward to seeing it in action with our customers very soon. And also for you, our participants, I can imagine that was a lot of input, and then maybe you also have some questions. So let's take a look into the chat window and see what questions you had. There are indeed a few questions. Let's see and get them answered. Wait a second. Okay, there's one question. What technology is this based on, and where is the server located? Probably something you know a bit about the background, Timo.
I can answer that question, sure. About the technology, it's based on the OpenAI technology, aka ChatGPT, and we don't use the OpenAI cloud. We use the Microsoft Azure cloud for our implementation, and therefore we have several locations where we can have a server for that, and we have a server for our European customers, which is located in Amsterdam, and we have another server for the North American customers. I hope this this is the right answer for this question.
Okay, thank you. So next question. What languages does the integration support?
Yeah, I will follow up and answer this question as well. At the moment, we've covered from our point of view, the most important rules for the German language, and we have several rules for the English language as well. And we are working at the moment on covering all the rules for English as well.
Okay. Then a question. Yeah, of course, this is something that probably a lot of customers ask, can custom rules also be included? I think it's something we saw a bit in the demo already, Philip, but maybe just to add the complete picture.
Yeah, that's a pretty important question, of course. Maybe not everyone knows, but Congree does not only offer a set of existing style rules. You also can have your own custom rules if the need arises. And of course, if you're using the AI integration in Congree, those customer rules, they can also be covered by prompts and can also provide correction proposals directly in the Congree panels. Yeah, that's of course no problem.
Okay. Then a question, probably from a customer. Yeah, seems yeah, right. Can I use it as a Congree on-premise customer?
Should I?
Yeah, if you want.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. To be able to communicate with the AI, as Timo already explained, of course, you need to access the clouds. This functionality currently is only available in the cloud. So this communication into the cloud must be possible. But this communication into the cloud is, of course, also possible if you are on premise. So that is possible, yes.
Okay. One question is probably one of the participants that in our poll gave the answer. We already used something. Question is, we already have an account with OpenAI. Can we link this to the Congree solution?
That's a very interesting question. Sure. As I mentioned before, yeah, we use the OpenAI technology, and for that we our service in the background is vendor independent, and this means if you already have an OpenAI account, because it's the same technology, we can implement your credentials for your OpenAI account, and then our service can talk to the OpenAI instance. That is possible, and yeah, therefore it's not necessary to use our service on the Azure cloud. If you have something on your own, then you can use it for sure.
Okay, thanks, Timo. Another question is, what about integrations into other web environments?
Yeah, as mentioned at the beginning, what we saw here, this is Congree Anywhere. But as most of you might know, Congree is available on any web content you can imagine. So it's possible to use Congree in LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, wherever content is shared with your customers. And yeah, I really suggest you take advantage of this possibility. So if you already are a Congree user and yeah, create content via social web, you should really use Congree for it. I mean, what does it cost you? You already have it, so it's really a huge benefit. And for all those web integrations out there which we have, this integration does exist. And as Michael explained at the beginning, it also works for all the integrations we have in other editing environment which are not in the web. Yeah, this was not part of the question, but I think it's also interesting to know.
All right. There's another question. How is authoring memory leveraged for suggestions along with AI-generated content? This probably refers to the Congree authoring memory.
Exactly. So maybe not everyone knows, the Congree authoring memory is an additional feature which we have in Congree, which offers similar sentences someone else or yourself wrote in the past, and they have been approved. They have been considered good enough for reuse. and while you write, those sentences are offered, and you can apply them. Currently, regarding our AI integration, what we have shown today is what we have. So there is no additional functionality which enriches the authoring memory as of yet, but we do have plans to do something there as well. Yeah, it's just that's the current state. Yeah, so stay tuned.
Okay, thanks, Philip. And then there is a question, when can we start using this? Yeah. Okay.
I will answer it. What we have shown you here, that is already possible to use and to test, as Philip explained, as long as if your company is able to give a connect to ChatGPT or our Microsoft Azure Cloud, or as long as you're allowed to use generative AI within your company. And I would suggest everybody who's interested and want to test it or to use it, get in touch with us. We'll set up an appointment, and then we will come together and talk to each other how we can and when we can set up it in your environment.
All right. Yeah, actually, this is quite referring to what we also wanted to say. There are experts, how we call it, expert meetings. So with Timo and Stefan Craigwitz from our side, and if you have specific questions all around the individual scenario within your organization, which you possibly have and which we already saw with some of the questions that came in, you're more than welcome to step into a, of course, completely free expert talk with us to take a look on your specific situation. This is without any obligation, of course. Let us know, and you may send an email to me. I will coordinate that, mmanhart@congree.com, and I will be happy to arrange a meeting with you and our team at any time.
Michael,
Sure.
just to clarify one thing, this talk is not about the integration or limited to the integration. So we want to talk to you about generative AI in common, and how you are planning to use it, or what are your ideas of generative AI, how you see the generative AI, how you want to use it. That's our topics we want to talk. We want to get in touch with you to learn from your requirements, and to talk with you to how we can integrate it.
Yeah, thanks for adding that, Timo. Yeah, of course, we like to get also a picture on your plans and inspiration on how to continue to work on this. All right, I think we had a lot of great and hopefully useful input for you today. Hopefully you got some inspiration and what possible impact UCC and generative AI in general may have on the way how your organization creates content, and then also on how to deal with both the challenges and the risks of generative AI like ChatGPT and others. And yeah, so I think what I can say is thanks for joining this webinar today. It was a pleasure to welcome you as participants today. We are happy about the number of participants. Seems this is a very this is very much a topic which is in the focus of many organizations apparently. And yeah, as mentioned, if you'd like to know more, reach out to us at Congree, send us an email. Happy to answer any questions. And thanks, Philip. Thanks, Timo. And have a great rest of the day, or evening in our case. I think this closes the day. It's quite hot here in southern Germany, I have to say. So see you soon. Thanks, and bye-bye.
And don't be afraid to test it. It's really fun to use. It's really a great experience. Don't miss it. Okay. Bye-bye.
I can confirm.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.